The Chicago Bears finally did it. The inevitable finally happened. Right? In the offseason, the Bears traded for Nick Foles. It was only really a matter of time before he upended Mitchell Trubisky. Trubisky got the start and won the first 2 games. Struggles yet again. Because that's the thing. He won the first 2 games. The Bears are 2-0 coming into Sunday. But it's not like they were good. It's not like Mitchell Trubisky was good. I said last week on the show, the Bears are the worst 2-0 team maybe I've ever seen in my life. They needed a miracle drop touchdown pass to beat the Lions. They barely held on in the second half to hold on to beat the hapless Giants. And now down 26-10 in the fourth quarter. Mitchell Trubisky stinks. Matt Nagy pulls the trigger. Puts in Nick Foles, and as Nick Foles does, right? This is where he's at his best. If you put him as a starter to start the season, if you make him, the number 1 guy, he's not good. But as soon as you put him in that backup role, as soon as you basically put a target out there and say, hey, this is the guy you got to beat, he's the best quarterback to ever play the game. Comes in the second half, 188 yards, 3 touchdowns. Bears erase a 16-point lead. And now they go to 3-0 on the year. So again, credit to the Bears, because guess what? Through 10 quarters, 8 quarters the first 2 games, and the first half of the game against the Falcons, the Bears were awful for probably 8 of those 10 quarters. I'll give the fourth quarter against the Lions, and I'll give you the first quarter or second quarter against the Giants. Other than that, they were terrible offensively. Led by Mitchell Trubisky. So even though they were 2-0, some people thought maybe it was a quick hook that Matt Nagy had on Mitchell Trubisky. Right move. Now, I will say this. They got the win yesterday. Nick Foles played great. This is not the last you'll see of Mitchell Trubisky. He is going to start multiple games for the Bears this season still. Because guess what? You bench Mitchell Trubisky for a guy that's hot and cold. That's what Nick Foles is. He's either really good or really bad. There's really no in between. That Super Bowl run with Philly, he was really good. Starts the season out when Carson Wentz is still trying to come back, he's not good. Ice cold. Carson Wentz gets hurt again at the end of the year, that same year in 2018. Nick Foles leads them to a win on the road in Chicago, and then almost pulls another offset off against the Saints in that NFC divisional round. Nick Foles is extremely hot and cold. He was hot yesterday. He'll cool off. Don't you worry, he will cool off. He will not be the starter the rest of the year. He'll get benched. Trubisky will come back. He will probably get benched again. It's going to be a flip-flop all year long. But the Bears, 3-0. Somehow, by God's graces, they are 3-0. Speaking of that game, Falcons fans, if you're even listening to sports radio right now, I give you so much credit. I'm not sure why you'd want to do that to yourself. Because nothing good is going to be said about the Falcons. There's no reason to relive another choke job by the Atlanta Falcons. Falcons are going to Falcon. And they make history doing so. Right? We told you they just blew a 26-10 fourth quarter lead. Now the first team since 2000, at least 2000, to blow multiple 15-point fourth quarter leads in one season. The first team in at least 2 decades to blow 2 15-point fourth quarter leads in just the span of one season. Forget the fact they did it in back-to-back weeks. Could you imagine that? You blow a game that you seemed impossible to lose against the Cowboys. You're up 39-24 in the fourth quarter. Can't lose that game. Impossible. Well, one thing leads to another. Falcons are going to Falcon. Onto a kick. Everyone stares at it. Cowboys just couldn't be stopped in the second half defensively by the Falcons. Game over. All right. Well, blown games happen. They happen more often than not with Dan Quinn as head coach. But, all right, you know what? Won't happen again. Everything had to go wrong. Everything that did go wrong happened. Last week against the Cowboys. Can't have that again. Fate you got to get one break. 26-10. Bears score. Falcons will go 3 and out. Bears score. Falcons will go 3 and out. Bears score. Turnover. Game over. Another blown lead. And honestly, so we are sitting here at 10:32 on Monday. Nothing has come down the pike yet. But what is the reason why Dan Quinn should not be fired today? What's the justification? The same issues that keep popping up for the Falcons week in and week out. The same reason why they are blowing multiple 15-point leads making history in doing so. That's the head coach that's supposed to prevent that from happening. That is a defensive-minded head coach. The Super Bowl happened, as we all know. Everyone remembers 28-3. The Falcons have underachieved ever since then. You shouldn't have brought him back this year. I think it was shocking. Everyone was floored that they brought them back this year. And what does he do? The first 3 games gets blown by Russell Wilson, but be fair to Dan Quinn, no one is stopping Russell Wilson right now. Your defense, a defensive-minded head coach, blows a 15-point fourth-quarter lead against the Cowboys, does it right again, this time a 16-point lead. 15 wasn't bad enough last week. Let's blow a 16-point lead this week. That Cowboys loss cemented Dan Quinn's fate that he was going to be fired at the end of the season. The Bears loss should cement Dan Quinn's fate that he is fired today. Today, probably should have been fired in the postgame. Arthur Blank should have went Jerry Jones, have a postgame press conference right outside the locker room and say, Dan Quinn, thanks but no thanks. This is finally the end of the road for you. We should have done it last year. I liked you. I want to keep continuity. This is a family environment here. I really like you as our head coach. But yet again, the Falcons continue to fall flat on their face, and another blown lead in history in the making in doing so. How about the Titans? More specifically, how about Ryan Tannehill? Now, because I knocked myself off the air, we lost about 20 minutes or so. I'm not going to have time to get into it today. I want to get back to it on Thursday. But I teased it earlier in the show. There are 2 quarterbacks that so far really proved me wrong. I had my doubts about and I am wrong on. Josh Allen with the Bills in the pros. Sam Ehlinger with Texas in college. Ryan Tannehill is about to find himself on this list. I had serious doubts last year when Ryan Tannehill went to Tennessee that he would really kind of engineer this offense and turn it around. Tennessee was a team I did not respect with Marcus Mariota at quarterback. I'll never forget, last year, one of the shows I worked on CBS Sports Radio, my guy Bill Ryder. I love Bill. Great talent. He picked the Titans to win the division last year, the AFC South. I remember laughing to myself. Titans are a joke. Titans, I thought, would finish closer to 4th than they would 1st. Well, they didn't win the division, but they were one of the hottest teams down the stretch. They made the playoffs. They went to the AFC title game. So who was really laughing at the end? Well, it was Ryan Tannehill and it was Bill. He's been great. 809 yards so far, 6 touchdowns, 105 quarterback rating. Titans are 3-0. Now, it hasn't all been pretty, but so far they're getting it done. I can't lie. So far I've been proven wrong. I thought last year was lightning in a bottle. When Ryan Tannehill came in the second half of the year, I thought it was just one of those things where you get on a hot streak, right? We see it all the time. Quarterbacks just play out of their minds, can't be stopped, and they're just on one of those grooves, one of those streaks. They were playing lights out. And the style that the Titans had, where you run the ball with Derrick Henry in the first half, wear the defense down, Ryan Tannehill took shots, deep shots in the second half, worked. And I'll be honest, I thought it was lightning in a bottle. I thought it could not be replicated over a full season. So far, 3 games, I'm wrong. I'm wrong. I'll admit it, hand up, I was wrong. Now, I'm still questioning if they can do it all season long. 3 games is not exactly enough of a sample size to say, hey, this is an offensive game plan that works. I still am worried about with teams scoring quicker and quicker, with bigger plays becoming now imperative. I'm a little concerned that the Titans are so reliant on the run game to start that if the run game isn't there early, I still worry that Ryan Tannehill can win the game with his arm. But hey, so far so good, 3-0. Ryan Tannehill quickly joined the list of Josh Allen and Sam Ehlinger. Quarterbacks I had my doubts on that they have proven me wrong so far. How about, we mentioned the Giants before. How about the 49ers? I understand they played the Jets and the Giants, 2 of the worst teams in the NFL. But regardless of the opponent, the way the San Francisco has dominated the last 2 games with the mash unit, because that's what their team is. Their team is essentially a mash unit. Where they're 1 injury away from me and you suiting up to play for them, they've been able to dominate. So think about it. They played this past game against the Giants, and they lost a lot of these same players about to list against the Jets. They played without Jimmy Garoppolo, their starting quarterback, George Kittle, their all-world tight end, Raheem Mostert, their starting running back, Nick Bosa, one of the best defensive players in the league, up and coming, Tevin Coleman, their second-string running back, Dee Ford, an edge rusher, Deebo Samuel, their number 1 wide receiver. All of those key pieces throughout different parts of their team were out. They still put up 36 points against the Giants, 31 points against the Jets. Nick Mullins threw for 343 yards. Doesn't matter who they played, with how banged up they were, with how many reserves that had to be put as starters. That is flat out impressive. Hat tip to Kyle Shanahan for the way he can call plays no matter who's in there. And the 49ers continue to roll despite the fact that they have more guys in the IR than they do that actually suit up and play. Insane. Absolutely insane. How about Browns fans? This is a Monday you haven't experienced in a very, 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 very long time. This Victory Monday is unlike any Victory Monday the Browns have had the last 6 years. Today, on September 28th, right, the Monday after the third week of the season, the Browns have a winning record. They are 2-1. This is the first time they had a winning record in 6 years. And not winning record at the end of the year. Winning record at any point in the season. Think about that. This is the first time since week 15 of the 2014 season, when the Browns were 7-6, that they have a winning record at 2-1. They never started the year off with 1-0 since 2014. They never even won enough games in a row to qualify to get over 500. The first time in 6 years the Browns have a winning record at any point during the season. Could you imagine? Could you imagine being a fan of a team that's that bad? Now, I do want to get into discussion more on Thursday, because I'm really curious your thoughts as sports fans. What is worse, being a Browns fan and basically having no hope for a lot of your fandom, or being the Falcons? Constantly having hope, having high expectations, and not only losing in historical fashion, in heartbreaking fashion, to where it feels like you almost can't even get excited because you're just waiting for them to disappoint. And then they always do disappoint. But credit to the Browns, 90 weeks, the Browns sat either at 500 or below 500 in NFL record. So Browns fans, you're over 500 for the first time in 6 years. Go crazy. Go wild. Honestly, this should be your Super Bowl. You got to treat this like you guys won the division. Because there's not been much to celebrate in Cleveland, so every little milestone, every small accomplishment should be celebrated big time. Big time. Congratulations to you, Browns. First time in 6 years, you're over 500. That's a stat. We all know how bad the Browns have been for a while. That's a stat I never would have guessed as real. You just would assume, okay, at one point, you start off 1-0. You win 2 games in a row if you lose the first one. Early in the year is enough where you can, squeeze by 1 or 2 wins to get over 500, but not been easy for the Browns. Absolutely not been easy. We'll finish up with this one for quick hits. How about Justin Jefferson exploding onto the scene, I think showing his true potential for the Vikings? Coming out party yesterday, even though they lost, 7 catches, 175 yards and a touchdown. Absolutely balled out. Balled out in a much-needed way for the Vikings because, for the most part, it was Adam Thielen at receiver and no one else. No one else is stepping up. No one could take the heat off Thielen. Teams are double and triple teaming him, and no one could step up. This is huge, huge, huge for the Vikings. Now, this year they're 0-3. The season's already over. But going forward, this is why you drafted Justin Jefferson. Made contested catches. Tough to guard. There's a flat-out really good wide receiver. I think this is kind of the springboard he needed to get his season going. I think it'll be a lot better as the season goes on. So congrats to you, Justin Jefferson, breaking out. Big-time performance again in a loss. Season's already over for the Vikings, let's be honest. 0-3. Not going anywhere, but hey, at least now you have some more offensive weapons for Kirk Cousins to hopefully get the ball to.